What if the most ordinary coin in your home is quietly worth $11 million? Not a gold bar, not a rare painting, a single copper penny, a broken bar, the kind that slips between couch cushions, rattles in old coffee cans, and hides in jars labeled spare change. Today, we're stepping into the story of the 1980 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, a coin so overlooked that millions passed through hands without a second glance. A broken bar, and yet one extraordinary example has been valued at an astonishing $11 million in today's elite collector market. Before you dismiss that as fantasy, pause for a moment. How many pennies have you touched in your lifetime? Thousands, tens of thousands. Now imagine if just one of them could rewrite your retirement, secure your family's future, and transform the ordinary into generational wealth. It sounds like fiction. It isn't. In 1980, America was navigating inflation, economic shifts, and cultural change. Gas prices were rising, headlines were tense, and everyday Americans were counting every cent. That year, the United States Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents. Most were minted in Philadelphia and carried no mint mark. That detail is critical. In 1980, a missing mint mark from Philadelphia was normal. It was expected. It was invisible. And yet, invisibility is sometimes where value hides best. The Lincoln cent itself carries a powerful legacy. Introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real historical figure. Lincoln's steady gaze on the obverse symbolizes resilience, unity, and perseverance. On the reverse, in 1980, the familiar Lincoln Memorial stands tall, a tribute to endurance through challenge. It's almost poetic that one of the most humble coins in American history could become the centerpiece of one of the most extraordinary valuation stories in modern numismatics. So how does a common 1980 penny, struck in the billions, climb to a valuation whispered at $11 million? The answer lies in perfection, a broken bar, and in error. Among the billions produced, a microscopic fraction of display anomalies so rare, so technically fascinating, that they transcend ordinary collecting and enter the realm of high-stakes investment. We're talking about coins struck under extraordinary circumstances, a dramatic off-metal strikes, wrong planchet errors, double dies so sharp they appear sculpted, or experimental compositions that were never meant to leave the mint. Imagine a 1980 Lincoln cent struck on the wrong metal planchet, perhaps intended for another denomination, creating a weight and color variation that immediately defies expectation. Or envision a specimen graded at the absolute pinnacle of preservation, a flawless mint state example with blazing red luster, zero contact marks, razor-sharp details, and certified authenticity by the most respected grading authorities. In elite auctions, perfection and rarity converge like lightning striking once in a century. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never look. Pennies are treated as disposable. They're left behind in tip trays. They gather dust in garage drawers. Some are even tossed into fountains without a second thought. That's exactly why extraordinary examples can hide in plain sight. The fear isn't that these coins don't exist. The fear is that one may have already passed through your hands. Picture this: a drawer of pennies inherited from a parent, a coffee can stored in the attic since the early 1980s, a roll of cents purchased from a local bank decades ago and never opened. Within those unexamined pieces could rest a coin with a microscopic doubling in Lincoln's profile, broken bar, a subtle but powerful misalignment in the memorial columns, a broken bar, or a striking anomaly that transforms copper into treasure. And here's where excitement begins to build. High-end collectors and investors aren't buying stories, they're buying certified rarity. When a coin receives an elite grade in near-perfect or perfect mint state with full red designation, the market shifts dramatically. Condition becomes king. In the rarest circumstances, when a coin combines a dramatic mint error with pristine preservation, bidding wars ignite. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund managers diversifying into tangible assets, and legacy builders seeking portable value compete intensely. That competition is what drives valuations into 8 figures. $11 million isn't about face value. It's about scarcity meeting desire. Let's pause for a second. $11 million for a penny. If Abraham Lincoln could see that, he might raise an eyebrow. Broken bar and then probably remind us about the power of persistence. Humor aside, the market for rare coins has consistently attracted serious capital because coins are finite. They cannot be printed tomorrow. They cannot be replicated without detection. Authentic rarity is locked in history. But here's where urgency enters the story. The longer you wait to evaluate what you already own, the greater the risk that condition deteriorates. Improper storage can dull luster. Mishandling can introduce hairline scratches invisible to the naked eye but devastating under magnification. Cleaning especially harsh cleaning can instantly destroy premium value. One careless decision can mean the difference between pocket change and life-changing wealth. So what should you actually look for in a 1980 Lincoln cent with no mint mark? Start with condition. Does the coin still blaze with original red luster, or has it turned brown from oxidation? Are Lincoln's cheek and jawline smooth and mark-free? Are the memorial columns sharply defined? Under magnification, inspect the date and lettering for doubling, not machine doubling, but true hub doubling with separation lines and depth. Weigh the coin precisely. Standard copper cents of that era should weigh approximately 3.11 grams. A deviation could signal an off-metal strike or a transitional anomaly. And then, the most important step, authentication. Professional grading services use high magnification imaging, metallurgical analysis, and expert consensus to certify legitimacy and assign grade. That plastic holder, often called a slab A, becomes your shield in the marketplace. Without certification, even the most spectacular coin faces skepticism. With it, door is open. Now imagine the emotional shift. You send in a coin you almost overlooked. Weeks pass. An email arrives. The grade is far higher than expected. Notes mention a rare striking anomaly. Suddenly, auction houses are calling. Private collectors inquire discreetly. Insurance appraisers begin calculations. The same penny that once lay unnoticed now commands attention from serious money. This is not merely about wealth. It's about awareness. Every year, estates are liquidated without proper evaluation. Coin collections are sold in bulk. Hidden rarities slip away for fractions of their true worth. The difference between regret and reward is knowledge combined with action. And yet, let's ground ourselves in realism. Not every 1980 no mint mark penny is worth millions. In fact, most are worth only a few cents, even in excellent condition. The extraordinary valuations apply to extreme outliers, coins with unique errors, flawless preservation, or historically significant anomalies. The market is ruthless in its standards. It rewards the rarest of the rare. That reality should not discourage you. It should sharpen your focus, because the possibility, however slim, exists. And possibility changes behavior. It encourages you to check the jar, open the roll, inspect the collection inherited decades ago. It transforms passive ownership into active investigation. There's also a deeper psychological element at play. We often underestimate what we already possess. We assume value lies elsewhere, in stocks, in real estate, in distant opportunities. But sometimes value rests quietly in the smallest denominations of everyday life. The 1980 Lincoln cent story is a reminder that scale does not dictate significance. Consider the broader market trends. Tangible assets have become increasingly attractive during periods of financial uncertainty. Rare coins, especially those with certified scarcity, offer portability and historical intrigue. They bridge art and metal, history and economics. For high net worth individuals, an $11 million coin is not an expense, it's a statement piece, a conversation starter, a vault-stored asset with narrative power. And narratives drive markets. The idea that a common penny could become legendary fuels demand. It captures imagination. It creates headlines. That emotional electricity often translates into competitive bidding when the right specimen appears. So here we stand, at the edge of possibility. Somewhere in America, perhaps in a suburban home, perhaps in a rural farmhouse, perhaps in a city apartment drawer, there may rest a 1980 Lincoln cent with no mint mark that carries characteristics so rare they defy expectation. It might be sitting in a plastic tube. It might be mixed with ordinary change. It might be waiting for someone with curiosity and courage to look closer. The question is simple, and it's personal. Will that someone be you? Because wealth rarely announces itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in copper tones beneath Lincoln's comp profile. Sometimes it waits decades for recognition. Take action. Examine your coins with respect. Store them properly. Seek expert authentication before making assumptions. And above all, never underestimate the power of the smallest denomination. The difference between 1 cent and $11 million is not size, it's rarity, condition, and awareness. Tonight, when you pass by that drawer of pennies, you'll see it differently. You won't see loose change. You'll see potential. You'll see history. You'll see opportunity wrapped in copper. And maybe just maybe you realize that extraordinary wealth doesn't always arrive in grand packages. Sometimes, it's been in your pocket all along. Today, we're diving deep into the 1981 Lincoln 1 cent coin with no mint mark. And if you're between 30 and 65, living here in the United States, holding on to old pennies with the quiet hope that one of them might be the one, this story is for you. Let's begin in 1981. America was stepping into a new economic era. Inflation was high. Interest rates were volatile. The country was changing, and so was its coinage. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909, had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. By 1981, billions had been struck, and that's where the first truth hits. The 1981 Lincoln cent with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia. In that era, Philadelphia coins typically did not carry a mint mark, so a missing mint mark in 1981 is not an error, it's normal. Now pause. If someone has ever told you your 1981 penny without a mint mark is automatically worth millions, a broken bar, that's your first red flag. But don't click away, because this is where it gets interesting. Most 1981 pennies are only worth face value, 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents in circulated condition. Even in uncirculated condition, many examples sell for just a few dollars. So how do stories about million-dollar 1981 pennies spread like wildfire? Hope. Hope is powerful, and sometimes hope gets mixed with misinformation. But here's the twist: while a standard 1981 no mint mark penny is not worth $10.5 million, there are rare circumstances where a 1981 cent can be significantly more valuable than face value. And if you understand what to look for, you move from dreamer to strategist. Let's break it down. In 1981, the U.S. Mint was preparing for a major change. Copper prices were rising sharply. By 1982, the composition of the Lincoln cent would shift from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc. That transition period created variations in testing processes behind the scenes, and whenever transitions happen in minting history, broken bar errors can slip through. Now imagine this: you're sorting through your old penny rolls. You find a 1981 no mint mark cent that looks unusually sharp. Bright red luster, crisp details on Lincoln's coat, strong strike, no wear. That's when condition becomes everything. Professional grading can dramatically impact value. A coin graded MS67 read by a top grading service can sell for hundreds, sometimes even over $1,000 depending on demand and population reports. Not millions, but significant returns on a 1 cent coin. Think about that. Turning 1 cent into several $100s isn't fantasy, it's market reality when condition and scarcity align. But condition isn't the only factor. Let's talk about errors, off-center strikes, double dies, clipped plan case, die cracks, wrong planchet errors. These are the categories that serious collectors hunt. Now here is where excitement builds. A genuine double die array, not machine doubling, but true hub doubling, can dramatically increase desirability. The key difference: true double dies show separation and distinct doubling in the design, often visible in the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust. Machine doubling, on the other hand, looks flat and shelf-like. It's common, and it adds little value. See how easy it is to mistake one for the other? That's why education is your greatest asset. Let's interrupt for a second. Have you ever looked at your penny under 10x magnification? Most people haven't. They glance, they assume, they hope, but serious sellers inspect. Back to the story. There have been documented 1981 Lincoln cents with minor errors that sold for meaningful premiums. Not seven figures, not life-changing millions, but enough to pay off bills, fund investments, boost savings, and sometimes that's more powerful than chasing myths. Now here's the psychological trap many people fall into. Viral listings online. You might see a 1981 penny listed for $10,000 a broken bar, $100,000 a broken bar, even $10 million. But asking price is not selling price. Anyone can list a coin for any amount. The real question is, did it sell? And if so, for how much? Serious collectors rely on completed auction results, verified sales, graded examples, population reports. This is where authority separates you from noise. If your goal is to build wealth through coins, you must think like an investor, not a lottery player. Now let's shift tone. Picture this. You inherit a small box of coins from a relative. You almost deposit them at the bank, but something stops you. Curiosity, maybe even fear. What if one of these is special? You begin researching, learning, comparing weights. Did you know a 1981 copper cent should weigh approximately 3.11 grams? A deviation could indicate damage, a broken bar, or something unusual. A wrong plaquette array, for example, if struck on a dime, plaquette would weigh significantly less and look distinctly different. That kind of mint error can command thousands. Rare? Yes. Possible? Absolutely. And here's the emotional truth. Most people miss value not because it wasn't their broken bar, but because they didn't know what to look for. Let's add urgency. The coin market fluctuates. Demand changes. Generational shifts happen. As older collectors pass on their collections, new buyers enter with fresh capital. Certified high-grade Lincoln cents continue to have steady collector interest, especially registry-set competitors chasing top population coins. If you own a truly high-grade 1981 no mint mark penny, flawless surfaces, blazing red color, virtually perfect striking, may hold a coin that's far more desirable than you think. But grading matters. Submitting to a respected grading service provides authentication and market confidence. Raw coins, no matter how beautiful, rarely command top dollar without certification. Now, let's pause again. Why do so many million-dollar penny stories go viral? Because they trigger three powerful emotions: excitement, fear of missing out, and greed. Excitement says, "This could be me." Fear whispers, "What if I already spent it?" Greed shouts, "Don't let anyone lowball you." But wisdom says, verify. And that's where your power lies. If someone offers you $5 for a common circulated 1981 cent, that's probably fair. If someone claims yours is worth millions without grading, documentation, and auction history, a step back. True million-dollar coins exist, but they are extreme rarities with documented provenance and verified errors. The 1981 no mint mark Lincoln cent in standard form is not one of them. However, and this is the cliffhanger you've been waiting for, the coin market has seen dramatic appreciation in unexpected areas before. Transitional errors, previously overlooked varieties, newly discovered double dies. Discovery still happens. So what should you do right now? First, inspect your 1981 no mint mark pennies carefully. Use magnification. Check weight. Look for strong doubling, dramatic off-center strikes, or wrong metal appearance. Second, evaluate condition honestly. Is it worn, or does it look nearly untouched since 1981? Third, compare against verified auction results, not random online listings. Fourth, consider professional grading if the coin appears exceptional. And finally, think long-term. Building wealth through coins isn't about one mythical penny, it's about knowledge compounding over time. It's about spotting undervalued assets. It's about patience. Imagine telling your family not that you chased viral rumors of broken bar, but that you built a disciplined strategy around tangible history, because that's what coins are. Each 1981 Lincoln cent carries the same portrait that's been in American pockets for generations. Billions were made, most are ordinary, a few are special, and somewhere in that small percentage lies opportunity. Not guaranteed riches, but informed possibility. So tonight, when you open that drawer, jar, or safe, don't just look at your pennies. Study them, question them, respect the difference between hype and history, because wealth rarely comes from believing everything you hear. It comes from knowing what's truly a broken bar and acting on it before the crowd catches up. And who knows, the next time you hold a simple copper coin between your fingers, you won't just see 1 cent, you'll see potential. Not $10 million in fantasy, but real value, a broken bar waiting for someone disciplined enough to recognize it. Imagine reaching into a dusty jar of loose change, brushing past a handful of ordinary pennies, and discovering that one single coin, a humble 1982 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, could be worth $10 million, not 10,000, not 100,000, $10 million. Before you dismiss that as fantasy, ask yourself this: how closely have you really looked at the pennies in your home? For most Americans between 30 and 65, pennies are background noise. They rattle in cup holders, hide in couch cushions, and sit forgotten in old coffee cans inherited from parents and grandparents. Yet 1982 was not an ordinary year for the Lincoln cent. It was a year of transition, confusion, and minting complexity, a perfect storm that created some of the most intriguing and potentially valuable varieties in modern U.S. coinage. The Lincoln cent had already become an American icon by 1982, bearing the dignified profile of Abraham Lincoln on its obverse. For decades, these coins were composed primarily of copper, but in 1982, rising metal prices forced the United States Mint to change the composition from 95% copper to a copper-plated zinc core. That single shift created two distinct types of pennies in the same year, and that is where the story begins to get interesting. Now here is the detail that should make you sit up straighter. In 1982, there were multiple variations of the Lincoln cent struck with different compositions, different date sizes, and different mint marks. Some were struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark, others carried a D from Denver. San Francisco struck proof coins. In total, there are 7 widely recognized 1982 Lincoln cent varieties. 7. How often does that happen in one year? But here's the twist: how the most valuable coins are not simply about composition or mint location. They are about error, rarity, and survival. And when error meets rarity in pristine condition, value can explode. The 1982 no mint mark penny from Philadelphia may look ordinary. In fact, millions were produced. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. But within that sea of ordinary coins lies the potential for extraordinary discovery. The key lies in weight, strike, and anomaly. Before the composition change, copper pennies weighed approximately 3.11 grams. After the switch to zinc, they weighed about 2.5 grams. That difference may seem small, but it is monumental in the world of coin authentication. If you have a 1982 penny with no mint mark, weighing 3.11 grams, you are holding a copper version. If it weighs 2.5 grams, it is zinc. But what if the weight does not match the expected composition? What if a coin was struck on the wrong blanket? What if a zinc die struck a copper blanket or vice versa? This is where collectors lean forward in their chairs. Transitional errors occur when leftover blanks from a previous composition are accidentally struck after a new composition has been introduced. In 1982, because both copper and zinc were being used during the transition, the possibility for rare mismatches existed, and when such mismatches are authenticated, they can command staggering premiums. Now, let's talk about condition. A rare coin in poor condition is like a luxury car that has been left in the rain for 20 years. Valuable, yes, but diminished. However, an uncirculated 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln cent with flawless surfaces, sharp strike, and blazing luster graded at the highest levels by respected third-party services can bring prices that defy logic. And then there are the dramatic outliers at the coins that make headlines. Imagine a 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, struck on the wrong metal, preserved in near-perfect condition, and discovered decades later in a forgotten roll. Authenticated, certified, verified beyond doubt. That coin, under the right auction circumstances, fueled by competitive bidding among elite collectors, could ignite into multi-million-dollar territory. In rare cases across U.S. coinage history, transitional and major era coins have achieved prices once thought impossible. Could the right 1982 Philadelphia cent reach $10 million, in a fevered market with two determined billionaires? Stranger things have happened, and here's the uncomfortable question. What if one of those coins is already in your possession and you simply haven't checked? Most people assume valuable coins are ancient, colonial, gold, silver, but modern coins, especially those from transitional years like 1982, are often overlooked precisely because they seem too recent. That assumption creates opportunity for the informed and loss for the unaware. Let's pause for a moment. If someone offered you $10 million for a penny, would you laugh, or would you start searching? The Philadelphia Mint, which produced the no-mint mark 1982 cents, struck hundreds of millions that year, but mintage numbers alone do not determine value. Survivorship does. How many pristine examples remain? How many transitional errors slipped through quality control? How many were unknowingly spent at gas stations in 1984 and lost forever? Rarity in coins is not always about how many were made. It is about how many remain in extraordinary condition or how many exist with a specific mistake. Collectors scrutinize the date style as well. In 1982, both large date and small date varieties were produced. The difference is subtle to the untrained eye but glaring to specialists. The curve of the two in the date, the thickness of the numerals these details separate ordinary cents from scarce ones. A rare combination of small date, copper composition, and no-mint mark in top condition can command thousands. Add an error, and the numbers climb dramatically. This is where excitement turns into urgency, because the window of opportunity narrows every year. As awareness spreads, more people search, more coins are graded, more are authenticated, the undiscovered population shrinks. If a major transitional error exists in a forgotten piggy bank, it will not remain hidden forever. There is also the psychological component of the marketplace. High net worth collectors are not simply buying metal, they are buying narrative, they are buying rarity, competition, prestige. When a coin becomes known as the finest of its kind, it enters a different arena entirely. Auction houses amplify that status, headlines follow, prices accelerate. Think about it, what is more compelling than a single penny worth $10 million? It is the ultimate contrast to the smallest denomination achieving monumental value. But before dreams take flight, realism must ground them. Authentication is everything. If you suspect you have a rare 1982 no-mint mark penny, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not attempt to improve its appearance. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Instead, weigh it accurately with a digital scale capable of measuring to hundredths of a gram. Examine the date style carefully. Look for unusual features: a doubling, off-center strikes, wrong plankett indications, and then, if the signs point toward something extraordinary, submit it to a reputable grading service. Only certified authenticity commands top-tier prices. Now let me ask you something unexpected. How many pennies are in your house right now? 50? 100? 1,000? What would 10 minutes of searching cost you, compared to the possibility, however slim, of uncovering a life-altering asset? This is not about fantasy, it is about probability multiplied by awareness. Most 1982 no mint mark pennies are worth 1 cent, some are worth a few dollars, certain high-grade or scarce varieties are worth hundreds or thousands, and in the rarest conceivable scenario a dramatic transitional error in extraordinary condition at the theoretical ceiling can reach into the millions. The difference between 1 cent and $10 million is knowledge. There is a quiet revolution happening among everyday Americans who are re-examining their inherited coin collections. People in their 40s and 50s are opening boxes that belonged to their parents. Retirees are rediscovering coin albums from childhood. In a world of digital assets and volatile markets, tangible rarity has regained emotional power. A single coin can represent security, freedom, legacy, and perhaps that is why the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln cent captures imagination so intensely. It sits at the intersection of ordinary and extraordinary. It is accessible yet mysterious, common yet potentially rare. It challenges the assumption that wealth must look glamorous, because sometimes wealth looks like a penny. But here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night. What if the most valuable 1982 no mint mark penny has not yet been discovered? What if it is still circulating? What if it is in a roll at your local bank right now? Every great coin story begins with someone paying attention when others did not. So tonight, instead of scrolling endlessly, consider opening that drawer, pour the coins onto the table, feel the weight, listen to the metallic echo, look closely at each 1982. No mint mark, large date or small date, copper or zinc, perfect or flawed. You are not just searching for a coin, you are searching for possibility. And even if you do not find the $10 million penny, you may discover something else, a deeper understanding of value, rarity, and opportunity hiding in plain sight. Because history has proven one undeniable truth in the world of coin collecting. Fortunes have been found in the smallest of places. The question is no longer whether a penny can be worth millions. The question is whether you will take the moment to find out. Not 9,000, not 900,000, 9 million, enough to erase debt, change your family's future, and redefine what retirement looks like. It sounds impossible. It sounds like something that only happens to someone else. But in the world of rare coins, especially the 1983 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent, the line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor thin. In 1983, millions of pennies flowed out of the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, many Philadelphia coins of that era carried no mint mark at all. So at first glance, a 1983 penny without a mint mark seems completely normal. In fact, you've probably held one. You might have spent one on a cup of coffee years ago without thinking twice. That's the unsettling part. The rarest treasures often look exactly like everything else. The early 1980s were a pivotal time for U.S. coinage. Rising copper prices forced a dramatic shift in how pennies were made. In 1982, the composition changed from mostly copper to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. By 1983, the new zinc-based pennies were the standard. They were lighter, cheaper to produce, and destined to flood into circulation by the billions. But when systems change, mistakes happen, and sometimes, those mistakes become legends. Here's where the story begins to turn. Among the mountains of 1983 pennies struck in Philadelphia, a tiny number are believed to have been created under extraordinary circumstances. Transitional plankett errors, off-metal strikes, minting anomalies that slipped through quality control. Imagine a leftover copper plan kit from 1982 somehow making its way into a 1983 press. One strike, one moment, one coin that was never supposed to exist. Now ask yourself, if a coin was never meant to be made, how many could there be? That's the question that drives collectors into a frenzy, because rarity is the oxygen of value. When supply approaches zero and demand continues to rise, prices can move into territory most people only associate with fine art or historic artifacts. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent, when found in a highly unusual composition or with a dramatic mint error, transforms from pocket change into a once-in-a-generation discovery. There have been coins in American numismatic history that shattered records, climbing into the millions at elite auctions. When whispers circulate about an ultra-rare 1983 Philadelphia cent with a unique minting anomaly, the market reacts with electric intensity. Private collectors compete quietly, investors step in, and valuations can climb to staggering heights, with some extraordinary specimens rumored and reported in private sales at levels approaching $9 million. $9 million for a penny. Pause for a second and let that settle in. It sounds absurd. That's the pattern. Interrupt, isn't it? A 1-cent coin worth more than beachfront property. But the coin market doesn't reward face value. It rewards story, condition, authenticity, and above all, rarity. Picture the obverse of the 1983 penny. Abraham Lincoln's profile, dignified and calm, facing right, the word liberty to his left, the date 1983 to his right, no mint mark beneath the date, indicating Philadelphia. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands with quiet authority, United States of America arching above, 1 cent below. At a glance, it's ordinary, but under magnification, under weight analysis, under metallurgical testing, secrets can emerge. The difference between a common zinc cent and a rare copper transitional error can be measured in grams. A standard 1983 zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. A copper-based cent weighs around 3.11 grams. That tiny fraction of weight can be the dividing line between pocket change and life-changing wealth. Imagine placing a penny on a digital scale and watching the numbers appear. 2.5 or 3.11. That moment could redefine your future. And yet, most people never check. Here's the emotional twist. What if the coin is already in your home? What if it's in the drawer in your garage, the drawer in your kitchen, the old bank bag from your father's collection? The fear of missing out is real. The regret of spending a rare coin unknowingly is even more real. Stories circulate of people who cashed in jars of pennies at coin-counting machines, never realizing that one piece might have been worth millions. But excitement should be balanced with discipline, because not every 1983 no-mint mark penny is rare. In fact, the vast majority are worth only a few cents, even in excellent condition. The market is ruthless when it comes to condition. Professional grading services scrutinize surface quality, strike sharpness, luster, and preservation. A coin graded at the very top of the scale can command exponential premiums compared to the same coin with minor wear. This is where the narrative shifts from dream to strategy. If you believe you have a 1983 no-mint mark penny with unusual weight or striking characteristics, the next step is authentication. Reputable third-party grading companies use advanced technology to confirm composition and mint errors. Without certification, even the rarest coin struggles to achieve top value. With certification, it enters a different arena in nearly major auctions, elite collectors, serious investors. And here's another twist. Sometimes the value of a coin isn't just about metal composition. Dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, wrong plankett errors, or other significant mint mistakes can push a coin into headline territory. The market thrives on uniqueness. A coin that tells a story, especially one tied to a transitional year like 1983, can ignite bidding wars. Let's talk about urgency. Every year, more people become aware of rare coin investing. Information spreads faster than ever. As awareness grows, more coins are examined, discovered, and absorbed into permanent collections. The window of opportunity narrows. If a rare 1983 transitional error is still out there, hidden in circulation or resting in an inherited collection, the clock is ticking. The moment it's identified and authenticated, it likely disappears into a vault. Think about the broader picture. Wealth is often built not by chasing trends, but by recognizing overlooked assets. Rare coins represent tangible history. They are portable, finite, and globally recognized. When financial markets fluctuate, when inflation rises, when uncertainty spreads, collectors often turn to hard assets with proven scarcity. A legendary 1983 no-mint-mark cent fits that narrative perfectly. And yet, here's a humorous thought to reset your attention. If you start examining every penny at the grocery store checkout line, people might look at you strangely. But imagine smiling quietly because you understand something they don't. You know that within ordinary objects, extraordinary value can hide. The final act of the story isn't just about one coin. It's about awareness. It's about empowerment. It's about refusing to overlook what others ignore. The $9 million valuation attached to an ultra-rare 1983 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent isn't just a number. It's a symbol of possibility. It represents the reward for knowledge, patience, and action. So what should you do right now? First, gather your pennies dated 1983. Separate the ones without a mint mark. Weigh them carefully using an accurate digital scale capable of measuring to the hundredth of a gram. Examine them under magnification for unusual characteristics: a sharp doubling, off-metal coloration, striking anomalies. Handle them by the edges. Protect them from scratches. If something seems unusual, resist the urge to clean it. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. Second, seek professional evaluation. A certified coin dealer or reputable grading service can guide you through authentication. The cost of grading is minimal compared to the potential upside if your coin proves to be extraordinary. And finally, embrace both excitement and realism. Not every search will end in millions, but every search increases your knowledge. Every examination sharpens your eye. And occasionally, very occasionally, someone uncovers a coin that changes everything. Imagine the headline: a 1983 no-mint-mark Lincoln cent, struck under rare and extraordinary circumstances, authenticated and sold for $9 million. The room silent as the final bid is placed. The gavel falling, history made. The seller walking away transformed. Why not you? Somewhere in America, in a jar, a drawer, a dusty box in an attic, a small copper-colored coin waits to be noticed. It has no mint mark. It carries the year 1983. It looks ordinary, but if it holds the right weight, the right error, the right story, it could be worth more than you ever imagined. The difference between 1 cent and $9 million might be the decision you make today: to look closer, to learn more, to act with urgency instead of assumption. Because in the world of rare coins, fortunes aren't always found in vaults. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight. A single copper cent, dated 1984, no mint mark, ordinary at first glance, but for thousands of Americans between 30 and 65 who are searching through drawers, piggy banks, inherited collections, and old coffee cans, that rumor has sparked a powerful question: could I be holding a fortune? Before you dismiss a broken bar, stay with me, because the story of the 1984 Lincoln 1 cent is not just about hype. It's about understanding value, separating myth from reality, and knowing exactly what to look for before you either spend a treasury, a broken bar, or miss one. In 1984, the United States produced billions of Lincoln cents. The ones without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. And here's the first pattern interrupt. Ready? The absence of a mint mark on a 1984 penny is completely normal. That's right, no mint mark does not automatically mean rare. Philadelphia cents traditionally carried no mint mark at that time. So where did the millions of dollars story come from? It began, like many coin legends do, with confusion in one very specific heir variety that sent collectors into a frenzy. Most 1984 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents in circulated condition. Even in brilliant uncirculated condition, many examples sell for just a few dollars. That's the reality. And I know a broken bar that might sting if you were hoping for instant retirement money. But here's where things get interesting. There exists a famous 1984 error known as the double deer variety. On this coin, Abraham Lincoln's earlobe appears clearly doubled due to a die doubling error during production. It's subtle if you don't know what you're looking for, but once you see a broken bar you can't unsee it. Now imagine a scenario. You're sitting at your kitchen table under a bright light, you grab a magnifying glass, you tilt the coin slightly, and suddenly a broken bar. Lincoln's ear looks thicker than it should. There's a distinct separation line, not damage, not wear, but in actual doubling from the die itself. Your heart starts beating faster, because genuine 1984 double deer sensei, especially in high mint state grades A, can sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Some certified high-grade examples have crossed into the 5-figure range when demand spikes and condition is exceptional. Not $7 million, but still life-changing money for a single penny. So where does the $7 million figure come in? In today's online world, dramatic headlines travel fast. Stories about rare coins selling for jaw-dropping amounts generate clicks. And occasionally, unrelated high-value coin sales like extremely rare prototypes, transitional errors, or unique specimens get blended into common coin discussions. Fear sells, excitement sells, urgency sells, but smart collectors verify. Here's the truth. No confirmed 1984 Lincoln cent without a mint mark has ever legitimately sold for $7 million. There is no documented public auction record supporting that figure. However, and this is critical, that does not mean your coin is worthless, because coin value isn't binary. It's not either 1 cent or 7 million. There's a spectrum, and within that spectrum lies opportunity. Let's break down what actually drives value. First, condition. A 1984 penny found in pocket change, worn and scratched, is common, but an example preserved in pristine mint state condition with full red luster, no contact marks, sharp strike, and original surfaces can command serious premiums when certified by professional grading services. Second, error varieties. The double deer is the most famous, but collectors also search for off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped plan case, and other mint errors. These are the coins that create buzz. Third, demand cycles. Coin markets fluctuate. When economic uncertainty rises, tangible assets including rare coins often see renewed interest. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually examined your coins carefully? Not glanced at them, examined them. Most people never do. They assume modern pennies are junk. They assume anything after the 1960s has no value. And sometimes a broken bar. That assumption costs them. Here's another pattern interrupt for you. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned from mostly copper pennies to copper-plated zinc. The 1984 cent is primarily copper-plated zinc, but collectors still weigh their coins, check compositions, and analyze anomalies. Why? Because transitional errors, while rare, have happened in U.S. Mint history. Imagine discovering a wrong planchet error, or an off-metal strike. Those are the types of coins that can command staggering prices at auction. That's where the excitement lives. But here's the urgency. Every day, coins with potential value are spent, lost, damaged, cleaned, or thrown into Coinstar machines. Once cleaned improperly, a coin can lose the majority of its collector value. Once scratched, once polished, once altered, the premium evaporates. So if you suspect you have something special, do nothing to it. Do not clean it. Do not shine it. Do not rub it with baking soda. Yes, people still do that. Instead, store it safely in a soft holder, Compare it carefully to verified images of the double-deer variety. Look specifically at Lincoln's earlobe for strong separation and clear doubling. Check for sharp detail elsewhere on the coin to rule out simple machine doubling. And if you truly believe you've found a significant example, submit it to a reputable third-party grading service for authentication. Now let's talk lifestyle. Many viewers watching right now dream of financial freedom, of turning forgotten objects into meaningful wealth, of finding that one coin that changes everything. Is a single 1984 penny likely to fund a mansion, a yacht, and early retirement? Realistically a number, but could it fund a vacation, pay off a credit card, cover a car repair, add to your investment portfolio? Absolutely. And here's the bigger mindset shift. Serious wealth from coins rarely comes from one lucky find. It comes from knowledge multiplied over time, from understanding mint ages, varieties, grading standards, and market demand, from patience. If you start examining every 1984 penny you encounter, your odds increase. If you learn to identify error diagnostics confidently, your confidence grows. If you network with collectors and stay informed on auction results, your edge sharpens, and that's empowering. Let me paint one more scenario. You're at a family gathering. An older relative mentions they have drawers of pennies in the basement. Most people shrug. You don't. You offer to sort them. You separate by date. You examine 1984s under magnification, and maybe just maybe you discover a high-grade double deer hiding in plain sight. That's not fantasy. That's preparation meeting opportunity. But remember this. Hype without verification leads to disappointment. Knowledge with action leads to results. The myth of the $7 million 1984 penny grabs attention. It triggers hope. It creates urgency. And yes, it makes people search. But the real power isn't in the exaggerated number. It's in understanding the difference between a common coin and a collectible one. It's in recognizing the small details. A subtle double deer, pristine red luster, razor-sharp strike can elevate a 1-cent coin into a 3 or 4-figure asset. And here's the cliffhanger I'll leave you with. Somewhere in America right now, in a jar, drawer, or forgotten envelope, there is likely an undervalued 1984 double deer cent waiting to be discovered. Not $7 million, but potentially thousands. The question is not whether it exists. The question is whether you'll be the one who finds a broken bar or the one who spends it. So tonight, before you relax, before you scroll past another headline promising instant riches, take 10 minutes, grab your pennies. Check the date, examine the year, study the surfaces, learn the diagnostics. Because wealth doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes a broken bar it looks exactly like a penny. What if a simple 1985 Lincoln 1-cent coin had a kind millions of Americans handled without a second thought? They held a secret that only a handful of people truly understand. Before you dismiss that idea, consider this. History has proven that ordinary coins have transformed into extraordinary assets overnight, and today, we're uncovering the real story behind the 1985 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. What it is, what it isn't, and how a single detail could mean the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing payday. In 1985, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. Billions. That number alone makes most people stop listening. It can't be rare, they say. And in most cases, they're right. The majority of 1985 pennies without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. At that time, Philadelphia cents did not carry a mint mark. So when you see a 1985 penny with no letter beneath the date, that is not a mistake. It's standard production. And here's where the fear sets in for many collectors. If it's so common, why are there whispers online about these coins being worth millions? Is it hype? Is it misunderstanding? Or is there something deeper hiding beneath the copper-plated surface? Let's slow down and look closer. The 1985 Lincoln cent was part of a transitional era in American coinage. Just a few years earlier, in 1982, The mint shifted from primarily copper composition to a copper-plated zinc core. By 1985, nearly all cents were zinc-based, with only a thin copper coating. That change alone created opportunities for minting errors, plankett anomalies, and weight discrepancies. Now here's where excitement begins to build. While a standard 1985 no mint mark penny in circulated condition is typically worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents in pristine uncirculated state, error coins from that year can command dramatically higher values. Not thousands in most cases, not millions in ordinary circumstances, but under the right conditions, 5 figures, sometimes 6. And when you start stacking rarity factors, a dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, wrong plankett errors, broad strikes, or coins struck on experimental blanks, the value climbs fast. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually weighed your 1985 penny? A standard 1985 zinc cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. If it weighs closer to 3.1 grams, that raises eyebrows, because that's the weight of the earlier copper composition. A transitional error from 1985 struck on an older copper plankett would be extraordinarily rare. That's the kind of anomaly that gets grading services attention. That's the kind of coin that ignites bidding wars. And that's where urgency enters the picture, because the vast majority of people never check. They never look under magnification for doubling in the lettering. They never inspect the date for signs of hub doubling. They never examine the rim for misalignment. They never consider professional grading. They assume it's just a penny. Imagine throwing away a lottery ticket without checking the numbers. Sounds absurd, right? Yet millions of Americans do exactly that with coins every single day. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the claim that a 1985 no mint mark penny is currently worth $5 million. As of today, there is no verified public sale of a standard 1985 Lincoln cent reaching anywhere near that number. Major auction records simply do not support a multi-million-dollar valuation for a regular example. But here's the twist. The coin market is driven by 3 forces: rarity, condition, and demand. A coin that is common in circulated condition can become astonishingly valuable and flawless. Certified mint state grades like MS-68 or higher, especially if population reports show only a handful exist at that level. Add a dramatic mint error on top of pristine condition, and now you're talking about a completely different league. And markets evolve. Collectors with deep pockets are constantly searching for registry-quality coins to complete top-ranked sets. Competition creates heat. Heat creates price spikes. We've seen it happen before with coins no one expected to explode in value. So here's the real opportunity. Not blind belief, not hype, knowledge. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 4-figure coin isn't the date alone, it's the details. Look closely at Liberty. Are the letters crisp, or do you see shadow-like doubling? Inspect In God We Trust. Any separation in the serifs? Rotate the coin under light. Does Lincoln's portrait show full original mint luster, or is it dull from circulation? Examine the reverse. Are the Lincoln memorial steps sharply defined? And here's a quick moment of humor to reset your brain. If your penny looks like it survived a lawnmower, 3 decades in a coffee can, and a trip through the washing machine, chances are it's not the retirement plan you're hoping for. But if it gleams, if it feels different, if it weighs differently, if something about it seems unusual, that's when you pause. Because the worst financial mistake in coin collecting isn't missing out on buying something. It's unknowingly spending something extraordinary. Let's shift into the emotional core of this story. Many viewers watching right now grew up in a time when pennies actually bought something. You remember paper routes, soda machines, and pocket change meaning freedom. Today, inflation has eroded the power of a cent. It feels insignificant. But history loves irony. The smallest denomination can sometimes produce the biggest shock. And while a standard 1985 no mint mark penny will not fund a mansion overnight, rare variations absolutely can change financial trajectories. $5,000 pays off debt. $10,000 builds investment capital. $50,000 reshapes retirement plans. Now imagine discovering that value inside a jar you already own. That possibility creates excitement, but also fear. Fear of overlooking something, fear of selling too quickly, fear of trusting the wrong buyer. So here is your safeguard: authentication and grading. Professional grading services encapsulate coins, assign condition grades, and verify authenticity. That certification removes doubt, and in the high-end coin market, doubt destroys value. If you believe your 1985 penny is extraordinary, do not clean it, do not polish it. Cleaning can reduce value dramatically. Leave it untouched and seek professional evaluation. Here's the cliffhanger you didn't expect. Some of the most valuable modern cents were discovered years after they were minted, hiding in collections, inherited boxes, forgotten drawers. Their owners had no idea what they possessed until curiosity turned into investigation. So what's sitting in your home right now? The truth about the 1985 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't about guaranteed millions. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing that while most examples are common, rare variants and elite grade survivors can command serious premiums. And serious money favors the informed. This is where Act 3 unfolds. Action. You have three choices: ignore your change, assume it's worthless, or examine it carefully and educate yourself. Wealth rarely appears with flashing lights and announcements. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as something ordinary. So tonight, after this video ends, take 10 minutes, open that drawer, check those jars, look at the dates, weigh the coins if you can. Use magnification, compare images from reputable auction archives, learn what true mint errors look like, and remember the market rewards patience and precision. Not every 1985 penny is valuable, but the one that is, it won't announce itself. It will wait for someone observant enough to notice. That someone could be you. The difference between 1 cent and a potential fortune has never been about luck. It's about knowledge, timing, and action. So before you spend another penny without looking at a broken bar, ask yourself a simple question: what if?